So I think one of the things that often gets left out, and I'm going to just change the topic, not the topic, but the title from captains to just leadership,
Mm-hmm.
is I don't think anybody needs to appoint anybody a leader. Because a lot of the times you give the leader is, if the leader, here's an example. If you give someone a letter and they say they're the leader, but they're the ones going, hey guys, wait for me. Wait for me. I'm the leader. You know what I mean? That's not the way it works. Leaders emerge naturally.
That's right.
You can call them alphas, whatever you want to do. The leaders emerge naturally. So there's things that you will see, and like as a coach, when I'm looking at a team, and if I see a kid that is not listening when I'm speaking, or kind of in a fog, or looking at the lights or whatever, for sure that's not a leadership quality. If the kid's not practicing hard, that's for sure not a leadership quality. Like obvious things like that. But the thing that I think that gets left out the most, and maybe this was in your mind or maybe it's not, is that there's a team first mentality, 100%. And that is very, 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 very difficult to find. So if you just have parents, coaches, players, if you start listening to people's conversations in the room or in interviews or whatever, without the bullshit, you're going to see the leaders that care about the team first. It emerges like crazy.
Yep.
So like, if you ask a guy, about his game. Okay, this isn't preempted video stuff. Like this is like in the back door. How'd you play today? Or like, how's everything going? A team first guy is actually going to talk about the team. They're going to care about the team. They're going to say statements like, how was your game? Well, I did this. I want to do this so that my team will get better, so my team can win, to give my team the best chance of winning. They actually care about the W or how the team played rather than how their performance was. Of course, their performance is going to be very important to them, but it's also going to be in relation to how much they contributed to the team, and that's a telltale sign. And you'll see that like now a lot of people get fooled by words, right? Action speaks louder than words every single time. So this is where you'll see a guy, when the game's on the line, and he's a good player. Sometimes you'll see him just try to do it all by himself. Well, that's not a leader, because it's still a team game, right? Like if you can do it by yourself, it's fine, but you need to use players. Or if it's like, well, I need to be on the ice, it's always it comes back to you and the important stuff. Yep. Everybody that's a leader wants to do the job, but also understands that there's other people that have to do it too, and you contribute, and it's about doing your job. Yep. So a leader will accept the fact that maybe he's playing with on a line above him, there's a 50-goal scorer, a 40-goal scorer, or whatever role it is. And maybe the captain or the leader of that team is a third-line guy, but plays that up and down role. But every shift he's out there and he does little things that other people don't do for his team. That guy understands he's just doing his job to make his team better. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And then it's the talking, right? It's like you'll see guys that appear to be leaders, but just because they're the better players, they'll get upset with people or upset, but what are they getting upset about, or what are they getting emotional about in the game? Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times it's because they're embarrassed for themselves, or they're not getting their cookies.
Oh yeah.
Rather than being upset that guys, we are not playing hard. We need to get together. We need to fix it. And collectively as a team, that's what the objective is, to make sure the team is the best thing. Absolutely. They're not upset at you for getting more goals than me or getting more ice or all these different things. It's about the team, not about the individual.
Yeah, and that's, like you said, really hard to find. I remember, so my second year, my third, I forget what year. I think it was my second year. I was a captain on my junior team my second year.
Yeah.
And I thought I was that, but I wasn't actually.
Yeah.
I had a lot of leadership qualities, but it was still, I cared about me and my performance first.
Yep.
And then the other things were after. And that's what you'll find with a lot of kids that are the leaders of the teams, especially at junior level or younger. It's like if we lose 5-2, but I scored both goals, I still go home happy.
It's all good.
And that doesn't mean you have to be upset like where you're crying because you lost 5-2, but there's just a certain attitude that comes with that, right? If you're walking out of the dressing room happy because you got your 2 goals, even though you lost 5-2, it's like we're missing an important element of being the captain or being a leader on your team, you know? And it wasn't until for me when I was playing at the university that I remember the switch happening where I was like, wow, I genuinely care more about the team winning than that I even get a shift now. You know, and I particularly remember that my second year and my third year where it was like I had accepted the fact that I'm not a superstar hockey player and the amount of goals I score doesn't actually matter.
Right.
The role that I play to contribute matters more than that. And I remember that switch happening where I would get genuinely pissed off at guys on my team for not caring more about the team, you know? And that was when the switch happened. I remember the mentality change from when I was in junior, and it was like the pretend leadership where it was like I did care about the team and I cared that we did well, but not more than that I did well and that I got my opportunity and I remember that for sure. But then that switch happened when I was playing in university after that, where it was like I actually didn't really care a whole lot about my own game anymore. I wanted to perform well and I wanted to contribute and all that, but it didn't matter that I was on first power play anymore. I wanted to be.
Everybody does.
Yeah, I wanted to be, but I didn't care anymore. It was like I just cared about doing what I could to contribute with the role that I was given.
Yeah.
And that's something it's hard to find. It's hard to learn when you're a kid because you're trying, and it makes sense. You're trying to achieve a goal and there's competition even among your teammates. You know, you're on the same team, but you still feel like you're competing against them to get a step ahead or whatever, you know? And the other point I was going to make too is as coaches, when you're picking your captains, you have to be careful about picking them too, because the kids on the team know who the captains are. And this goes to your point that you mentioned a little while back where it's like the captains emerge naturally.
Yeah.
That happens regardless of who's wearing the letters.
Oh, for
sure.
Know?
So it's like, I remember at the university particularly, well, I'll give 2 examples. The first one was when I was playing junior, my 3rd or my 4th year maybe. The captain of our team was the best captain I've ever had on any team I've been on.
Yep.
He played third line right wing. Yeah. And he was a horse. He was an absolute workhorse. He was a smaller guy, but just built like a fire hydrant. Finish hits, block shots, kill penalties, feet always moving. And he was in his overage year and he had a full-time job. He was working like on a construction site.
Yeah.
So he'd go to work. He works with cranes and stuff. He was doing some kind of labor work. So he'd go work all day and then he would come and he would play, come to practice, whatever, have his beers on the weekend and was like, and I'm sure he's now just like works in the trades and has his full-time job. Yeah. But this guy was a horse and he was vocal enough, not overly vocal, totally accepted what he was. He's like, I'm a grinder. I play third line minutes. I shouldn't be on the first power play. If you put me on the first power play, I shouldn't be there. If you ask me to be the guy to make a good skill play, I won't. So don't put me in that position. Yeah. And he was the only captain I ever had where I felt like he was that. Yeah. Even in all the years that I played, all the captains that I've played with, that was the only guy I ever played with as the captain where I was like, that guy's a captain. Yeah. Like that guy's actually a great example of what it should be. Yeah. You know, third line energy player. He was on the second power play. He played first penalty kill, would block shots, good attitude, talk to the guys, try to pull the guys together. Socially, he would make sure everyone's included outside of the rink. Yeah. And then on the other side, I had another captain at the university, and he was my age.
Oh yeah, you told me this guy.
He was my age, and when it was announced that he was one of the captains, the entire room was like, "Give me a break with this guy," you know.
It's the farthest thing from a captain.
Absolute goof. Yeah. And it was just like, who do you think you're faking out as the coach, like when you're doing this? Yeah. So to me, it looks like this is a guy you need to try to keep happy. Yeah. Because he was one of the better offensive players on our team. Yeah. And it was like, you're doing this because this guy probably would cry if you didn't give him a captain.
Cry. He's going to go be an idiot outside the ring.
Exactly.
Cause trouble if he doesn't have it.
Right. So this was in the last year that I played. He was one of our assistant captains, this kid. And it was one of those things where nobody listened to who the captains were. They listened to other guys that didn't have letters because they just knew those guys were the captains. These guys are just who the coach picked, you know? So as the coach, when you're picking the captains, be aware of that dynamic, because it ends up causing an issue, not necessarily between the players when you do that, but between the players and you as the coach. Because now we're looking at the coach like, dude, are you serious?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I call your bluff.
Yeah, and now you just lost respect as the coach
For sure.
because this guy is obviously not a captain, and they always preach, a guy that's committed and all this
But
bullshit.
that's what I'm saying. All these words about captain, that's what I don't agree with.
I know. And on top of that, the next year, that same guy got kicked off the team.
There you go. And the thing is, like you said, the kids lose respect for the coach, and that doesn't happen just because you're 22.
Right.
Kids at 12 know that the difference as well.
Absolutely.